Hello and welcome to my guide to Tanaan Jungle. Tanaan is the new area that has been added in patch 6.2. Today I'm going to give you a complete rundown of what's going on in the zone, and also a bunch of tips and tricks covering many different aspects of the place, which should help you on your travels and get you completely up to speed, as I have been PTR testing this thing for months and I pretty much know it like the back of my hand now. So, first of all, how the hell do you get there? Well, getting to Tanaan is super easy. When you first log into patch 6.2, assuming you have a level 3 garrison, there will be a quest which leads you to your town hall. Just follow that chain of quests. You'll soon have a new shipyard constructed in your garrison, and then you'll be sent off to the jungle. Once in Tanaan Jungle, there are another few short quests, culminating with the construction of your base. And after that, there's a quick little intro quest, which just sends you around to a bunch of locations. There are flight points, which will be super handy, so run around to those locations, pick up the flight points, and after that's done, essentially you'll see that Tanaan Jungle is basically a bunch of patch 6.0 daily quest areas in a circle, with Hellfire Citadel being the middle of that circle. But once you find all those flight points and complete the introduction quest, you will pretty much be good to go with the full content of Tanaan. In the next part of the guide, I'm going to go into depth about the actual content, and after that we will talk about the rewards, professions, sludge is great, and a whole bunch of other things. So then, questing. Well, first of all, the main quest content of Tanaan is Apexis missions. There are a bunch of different areas just like with patch 6.0. The overall quest flow for Tanaan is really quite simple. Once you arrive at your base, you'll get a simple kill quest, an Apexis mission, and then a quest to collect 10 Fel Corrupted Apexis fragments. Now those Apexis fragments drop from the rares and treasures inside the jungle. After you complete the Apexis mission, you will actually unlock a few more daily quests. One of those will be another generic kill quest, and the other one will be a quest to do 2 more Apexis missions. Doing all of this content will net you between 6,600 and 7,100 Apexis crystals, not counting those that drop from mobs. I recommend just doing the first Apexis mission as quick as possible and then heading back to your base, then picking up the bonus quest and just heading out and finishing all of that. Honestly, it's straightforward, you've all got common sense, and you will be completely fine. You will notice that there is a new garrison campaign. Similar to 6.0, these unlock over time, and doing them is worthwhile as they give rep to the various factions, which I will cover later, and at the end of the quest you get a gear upgrade token, which is worth 20,000 Apexis crystals, so these are totally worth doing for your character's power. These quests are usually located in one of the Apexis areas of Tanaan, and they actually activate a bonus objective in those areas, which will give you 2,000 crystals and 600 oil, which is certainly quite a nice thing. Just finishing up the other quest content, there is a quick quest to head over to the throne of Kil'jaeden and plant some items on the ground. I highly recommend doing this, as it will give you a one-way flight point to the area. There is also a short quest to choose a garrison ability. You'll be able to use any of the garrison abilities that you have unlocked from the other zones in Draenor, which does come in very handy. Next, let's cover the rares and treasures of Tanaan Jungle. While exploring the zone, basically, you'll run into loads of rares and loads of treasures. The Handy Notes Draenor Treasures add-on will actually receive an update as of 6.2's launch, how it currently works on the PTR, which will display all of the rares and all of the treasures on your map. That is a far more convenient way to view that information, so there's no point in doing maps on this video. The treasures often drop toys, Fel Corrupted Apexis fragments, and 650 weapons. The loot does depend on the treasure in question, and Handy Notes will tell you what every treasure drops. Killing rares gives you gear that is 655, and they also have a high chance of dropping baleful gear tokens. I'll give you a rundown of what those tokens do later on, but basically you click on them and you get a bit of loot, and that's the loot that you can use those upgrade items that I referenced earlier to get up to 695. Anyway, when you use those baleful tokens, sometimes the gear actually procs to 670. 5 actually, which is a nice little bonus. The rares and treasures can also drop oil and garrison resources, which could come in handy, I suppose. Rare mobs only drop their unique, kind of named set bit of loot once per day. That means that killing rare mobs again on different days might actually be worth doing, because I think you have a shot for some of that stuff to proc to a higher item level, which is kind of handy. Anyway, that is the rares and treasures covered. Next, let's talk about the reputations. There are 3 reps in the jungle. One of them is an easy grind that you can do in a day or two, but the others will take quite a bit of time, as their rep is from Tanaan daily quests. The Saberstalkers are rather similar to Emperor Xiao Hao. You can get rep with them by killing the Saberon mobs in Fangri-La. The mobs themselves give about 30 reputation each, and they have about 1 million health, so it's best and quickest to farm these in a group. There are also 4 rare mobs which spawn in the area. Killing them will grant you 600 rep apiece, I believe, so they are very much worth killing. When you kill these mobs, you will find that they drop these items called something claws. Now, these claws can be turned into the Saberstalker faction vendor to purchase a bunch of items. Now, this includes challenge totems, which are used to summon in mini-bosses. You will also notice that there is a weekly quest, which is to kill a number of named mobs. Well, these are the mobs that are summoned in using those totems. Now, defeating these will likely require a group. You probably can do it with 2 or 3 people quite easily, but basically what you do here is you farm up the needed claws, purchase the totems, then summon the bosses and kill them. That will complete your weekly quest. And completing that quest gives you 3,500 reputation and a buff to the number of Apexis crystals that drop off mobs in the jungle. That buff means that it's definitely worth doing this to help accelerate your gearing. The Order of the Awakened is the next faction, and it's a bit of a slow burn. There is one daily quest that grants reputation with this faction. It's the one that requires you to pick up 10 of those Fel Corrupted Apexis fragments. It's a pretty simple quest that you will be doing anyway to progress within Tanaan Jungle, and completing this quest gives 1500 rep. Other than that though, there's no real way to grind out rep with these guys, though I'm pretty sure that one of the Garrison campaign missions actually gives rep with this faction. Finally, we have the Hand of the Prophet and vol'jins Headhunters, and the rep with them is basically just gained by doing the rest of the Tanaan Jungle daily quests. This includes the 2 kill/collect daily quests, the initial Apexis mission, and then the quest to do 2 more Apexis missions. Combined, these will give you about 1,250 reputation per day unbuffed. You can get rep with all of these factions by using a token that comes from 2 different sources. When clicked on, the Medallion of the Legion will give you 1,000 reputation with all Warlords of Draenor factions. You can get these from a follower mission called Eldritch Horrors. There's also a chance to get these to drop from 4 rare mobs in Tanaan Jungle: Terror Fist, Death Talon, Doom Roller, and Vengeance. These are quite hard to kill, having about 10 million health, and they will require a group. Again, you can check their locations either on the map, which I'll throw up on the screen for the sake of convenience, or on handy notes. Next, let's cover Sludge. Sludge is good, and it's one of the most interesting mechanics in Tanaan Jungle. You'll notice loads of this green sludge just in rivers throughout the zone, and when you stand in this you get a buff which increases your damage done and taken by 5% per stack. However, it does kill you at 10 stacks. I usually like to get 8 stacks of this. The extra damage taken is rarely an issue because enemies die so absurdly quick when this buff is active, and you can pair it with the various different character power buffs in each of the Apexis zones to really just have extreme power. For an example, in the Fel Forge you can stack this with a potion which gives you 30% more damage, which means you're doing 70% more damage to mobs. It really means you can just tear through the Apexis zones. Next, we've got Professions, and Professions do actually have some stuff going on in Tanaan Jungle. Fel Blight is the new rare crafting resource in patch 6.2, and it's the equivalent of 6.0's Savage Blood. It's used in both epic gems and crafted gear. It drops from skinning mobs in Tanaan, mining ore in Tanaan, picking herbs, and then fishing from the Tanaan pools. Now, I mentioned epic gems there, and the epic gems are quite interesting this time around. They are expensive, requiring a rare gem and 10 Fel Blight. And to craft these, you actually need to unlock the Apexis Gem Cutting Construct. If you're a jewel crafter, then you will get a quest to do this from your main base. After it's unlocked, you need to unlock the patterns for the various gems via gameplay. Stamina drops from Rookmar Multi-Strike, costs 3,000 crystals from the Apexis vendors in Ashran. Mastery is sold to rank 6 or higher Brawlers Guild people. Haste drops from the final boss of Skyreach Mythic, and Crit is dropped from Iskar in Hellfire Citadel, and I'm pretty sure that includes LFR, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Next, let's cover rewards. I'm going to start off with the gear, and then I'll talk about the other things after that. Baleful gear tokens are the main reward of Tanaan Jungle as far as power goes. As I said earlier, they will create a bit of 650 gear with random stats that's appropriate to your loot spec whenever you right-click on them. The created gear can also proc to item level 675 if you are lucky. Now, these tokens can be purchased for 5,000 Apexis crystals each, with the exception of weapons, which cost 10,000. I do not recommend purchasing the tokens, though. Don't buy them, it's a waste of crystals. The tokens drop at a very high rate from rare mobs, and even regular mobs drop the odd few. Instead, what I think you should be doing is saving your Apexis crystals for the empowered Apexis fragment. Now, this item costs 20,000 Apexis crystals and will upgrade a bit of baleful gear, and not the token, the actual gear that comes from the token, to item level 695. The great thing about these in comparison to what Blizzard did with 5.4's Timeless Isle is that these can be used on the actual bit of gear, not the token. That means that you actually know what secondary stats the bits of gear will have, and therefore you can tailor it to what's best for your class and spec. They do cost 20,000 crystals, but you can pretty much get 2 of these every 3 days with the amount of Apexis that's given out in Tanaan Jungle. As always, I recommend upgrading the slots that mean the most first, so that's your chests and your heads and your weapons, because those slots have actually got a higher item budget than, say, something like a bracer. Now, moving on from gear, there are many other rewards, and I'm going to give you the highlights here. There is no point in going through every single minute little pet, toy, and vanity item. I'm just going to cover the important stuff here. So first of all, let's cover the stuff that will help you out. There are 4 new followers, and they are all quite powerful. There is a gnome or goblin, depending on your faction, who has a trait which increases oil rewards by 100%. There is also a follower called Solar Priest Varix, who increases Apexis crystal rewards by 100%. Palas is not special, but he does counter most enemy creature types, which makes him a more powerful than normal follower. And finally, Oranok Tornheart is from finishing the Garrison campaign, and he has a trait called Demonic Knowledge, which grants a large mission completion bonus to every single mission, which makes him super powerful as well. Also, getting revered with the Saberstalkers faction will unlock the Trailblazer buff at the cost of a mere 175 gold. It increases your mount speed by 15% inside Tanaan. Also, being honoured with the Order of the Awakened unlocks the Hunter's Seeking Crystal. This handy item will port you to a rare mob within 500 yards. There is an epic version available at Revered that isn't constrained by 500 yards. This faction also sells a very powerful Shipyard Destroyer at Exalted, which is worth thinking about. Now, the jungle itself comes with 7 different mounts. The Death Tusk Felboar comes from your faction's Tanaan reputation at Exalted. The Wild Gortusk is from Honoured with the Saberstalkers, but it does cost 1,000 of those Black Fang Claws. The Saberstalkers at Exalted will also sell you a Bristling Hellboar, which looks really cool, but does cost 5,000 of those Black Fang Claws. You can purchase the Corrupted Dreadwing mount for 1,500 Apexis crystals, and it does require Friendly with the Order of the Awakened, but really it's the 150k Apexis that's the limit on that one. There are also 3 mounts, which drop from the 4 Champions of Hellfire Citadel rare mobs that I mentioned earlier. They are the Warsong Direfang, Tundra Icehoof, and Armoured Razorback. There are a few handy treasures as well. The Skull of the Mad Chief will allow you to move very, very fast for 20 seconds, including over water. It's located in the cave at the location on the map, and it's a very simple treasure, just click on it to get it. The Brazier of Awakening is another absurdly nice item. Basically, you drop it on the ground, and when you die, it resurrects you. This is great if you know you're going to die in the world content, but also it's very handy for recovering from raid wipes, which could, save your raid a good bit of time. There are various toys and vanity items, with most of them coming from either treasures or rares, and a few of them coming from reps. The best way to get these is just to look at the map, assuming you have the Handy Notes Draenor Treasures add-on installed. Finally, I'm just going to cover some tips and tricks. First of all, the Skull of the Mad Chief and Brazier of Awakening, which I mentioned like 30 seconds ago or whatever, absolutely worth getting, they'll be really handy. In terms of other things, Aviana's Feather is a godsend in Tanaan Jungle. It carries you far enough to move from subzone to subzone, and it kind of negates some of the more annoying terrain in the northern areas of Tanaan. The stable is also great to have. Mob density is really high, so not being dismounted is extremely handy. Also, since gathering professions are so much more useful in Tanaan, being able to gather while you're mounted is just really, really good. Also, once you have unlocked the Throne of Kil'jaeden flight point, you could probably use a Goblin Glider or some sort of slowfall from that location to get to other areas quickly, which may come in handy somehow or sometime. Really hard to say, but those last points are really great while you're stuck on the ground, but do be sure to unlock flying as soon as possible, as it will make travel in Tanaan quite a bit more handy, and I do have a guide on how to fly in Warlords of Draenor up on my YouTube channel. Next, the Apexis missions that you really want to do because they're the fastest are Ironhold Harbour and the Iron Front. I can knock those ones out really quickly. Same goes for the Temple of Shannara. I'd say they're roughly the best. Zethgol seems to be by far the slowest, and if you do a mission in the Arakoa area, it's probably worth going into the part of that area that contains the elite mobs, because I found it is so much more faster than the part that contains regular mobs. Now, when you're in an Apexis area, there's usually going to be a buff of some sort, usually in the form of a potion or a scroll. Using those in combination with the Fell Sludge means that you will do insane damage. To give you an idea of the kind of speed that I'm able to get these Apexis things done at currently on the PTR, and that's without me using Aviana's Feather, and this is including flight time, the most recent round took me 26 minutes, but you could definitely cut that down probably to under 20 if you, have flying and you're doing good damage and things like that. Anyway, that is basically it for the Tanaan Jungle Guide. This video will have given you an overview of everything that is going on in the jungle. Do be sure to check out my YouTube channel though, because there are loads of other patch 6.2 guides, including how to gear up really quickly and how to get loads of Apexis crystals, and hopefully a few other things. But anyway, that is basically it for the video. Thank you very much for watching, and be sure to smash that thumbs up button if you found the video useful. That's it from me, and I will see you next time.